Hey, you made it. Welcome to the nitty gritty part of this mini course where we go ahead, we're going to outline how to find our starting line, our middle line, and our finish line to our fat loss phase. Okay, this is foolproof. It has a bit of a learning curve, but once you get through it, you'll have a lifelong tool that you can use to really hone in what you want for your personal self, your physique, whatever your goals may be. And so, what we're going to cover here is first, I've got 5 steps for us, okay? We have the first step, which is our energy balance, what and why, okay? What those are, what it means for us. And then we're going to get into step 2, which is how to tip those scales in our favor, one way or the other, whether it's in loss or gain or staying the same, and the benefits of each of them. Step 3 is going to be how to go for fat loss, okay? I have 3 pillars that I like to use for this and my clients, and it's very, very integral to understanding how your body moves, what it needs, so that you can feel really good even while going through a fat loss phase. Step 4 are your best tools and practices, generally shortcuts. Like I said before, that 80-20 principle of things that you can do to really make it easier on yourself going through the day. I also recommend checking out the guide that I gave for foods that you can eat to help stay fuller even while in a fat loss phase. But step 5 is going to be our what to do from there. Troubleshooting you can do for whether or not things worked, whether or not you want them to go faster. How do we go from here? How do we make a lifestyle out of this new thing that we've learned? And then additional tools for you as well, some frequently asked questions, okay? So we're going to dive right in to step number 1. Bear with me, okay? I know this is a lot. We have the first step, which is our energy balance, okay? What is it and why is it important? I've mentioned it many times so far, especially going through the myths, that the body utilizes energy, okay? In science, we've got the law of thermodynamics, which is a tested and proven thing scientists have really hammered in. We've got nutrition scientists that use this to a T, okay? And you can see this in industries like bodybuilding, and if you talk to nutritionists and dietitians, typically there will also be some form of energy use of the body incorporated into things, as well as vitamins and minerals. But generally we have homeostasis as the body's general goal, okay? And that means that it's going to try and stay well balanced in your energy utilization and your energy intake. First off, your energy intake is anything that you are putting in your mouth, or even intravenously, like liquids, if you do an IV or anything like that. Those can have content, but generally we are talking about food and drink that we are consuming, okay? All energy in is typically through what we take through our face. Food, water, drink, soda, everything. Okay, and then energy out is all of our organ function, our movement throughout the day, when we sleep. Basically, whatever keeps the body moving and functioning is going to be your energy out, okay? The thing that nutrition scientists have come to know and love to track this amount of energy that the body uses and takes in is kilocalories, also known as calories. Now we have a word that we have heard many times over, many times over, everywhere, okay? That is what they are referring to, calories. It's on your labels. It tells you the units of energy that are within that food or drink that you're going to consume that is equivalent to some kind of movement that your body does, okay? Your labels on food have other information as well, but generally your calories, the big words in bold, are going to be what calories are. So you'll notice that different foods have different amounts of calories on them. And so it's equivalent to a different amount of energy that it would take for your body to burn in order to burn off that food or drink that was consumed. Okay. Once you have a strong understanding of your daily, weekly, monthly output and input, you can easily kind of influence these factors to get you where you want to go. Because when we are in a, when we're eating, because that the tipping of the scales, especially conscientiously, is, we have phrases for those. And that's what brings us next into a step number 2, which is our maintenance, surplus, and deficit. These are terms as well that may be very familiar to you. Generally, your maintenance is your balance. Your body wants to stay here. Your body's most comfortable here, which means that if you have a tendency to eat less, your body will also move less in order to keep the scales balanced. It wants that homeostasis, remember? Okay, and it also does the same thing in terms of if you eat more, you will tend to move more as well to compensate. Most of the time, this is subconsciously, okay? But once you start to look at your numbers, when you're keeping track of everything, you'll kind of notice where it wants to go. You'll tend to move less if you're eating less. And so you'll want to keep the movement the same in order to allow your food deficit to stay the same. So surplus is a gain, deficit is a loss, and maintenance is staying the same. These are terms that you can look up online. There's lots and lots of information about it, but this is generally what they are. Your maintenance is the best place you're going to find for body recomposition, which just means that you want to lose fat and gain muscle at about the same rate. Muscle weighs more than fat, so the body will slowly have a tendency to shrink in the way that it looks and feels, but the weight will stay the same because muscle is heavier but smaller. So even as you put on muscle and lose fat, the figure will shrink. Your surplus will be the best environment for if you want muscle gain, though it will come with some fat gain as well, because you'll be eating in a surplus. You'll be putting on more body mass than what you had previously. And then your deficit, which is your environment for weight loss / fat loss. If you are aiming for fat loss, you need a resistance training program. Without working your muscles, because muscles are kind of expensive in the body's eyes in terms of energy, if you're not focusing on working your muscles as well when in a deficit, you will be probably burning more muscle than you will be fat. So just going into a deficit is not necessarily the most recommended thing to do food-wise. I would recommend keeping in mind that you can also incorporate more movement into your regimen as well if you want to keep your food the same. Okay? So muscle is extremely valuable. You want to keep that, especially as you age. It just helps you feel better, move better. It allows you to stay more capable as you age, and it just looks better. I will say from experience, the muscle, it looks very good. It feels very good. So now that we're looking for fat loss, we can move into step 3, which is our deficit. Okay. We've already touched on the fact that muscle is very important, okay? So we don't want to go too heavy in on a deficit food-wise or cardio-wise, because those big adjustments are going to cause the body to try and compensate greatly in other areas. Now we move into step 3. Now, because fat loss is our goal, a deficit is ideally the thing that we're going to be aiming for. The biggest mistake that I see people tend to make when trying to enter this phase is they try to hit it too hard and heavy right out the gate. And in the end, it becomes too difficult to maintain for longer periods of time. As mentioned before, it's going to take at least 1, 2, 3, 6, 12 months to really see results that you want. I will say that generally the slower you go to attain that goal means it's going to be more sustainable because you're able to maintain it for a longer period of time. If it takes you over a year to attain it, that means that not only did you keep it off, but you were able to follow the process for a long period of time. And therefore, it becomes something that's a part of your life. If we go in trying to do something like a 1200 calorie diet, then you're really cutting off, when you think of the scale that your body's trying to maintain, when you cut out so much of that food, your body's going to try and compensate to make up for all this other stuff, okay? You start feeling tired, you start moving less, your mood goes south, your hormones take a dive. There's just so many things your body is going to cut out in order to try and save energy because you're not taking in as much energy. So when it comes to a healthy deficit for fat loss, the smaller is typically the better, okay? People don't like this answer because it's not 30 days. It's not 60 days. It's not 3 weeks. It is a longer period of time. But typically what happens when people end up, you hear it all the time, I lost 10 pounds in a month. Oh, did you keep it off? No, I gained it back a month later. Because it was either water weight or it wasn't something they could keep doing forever. You know, they got sick and they stopped eating. Something to that degree. So when we're looking at calories, 200, 400 calories of a deficit per day on average is typically what you're going to want to look for. That's my recommendation. So when I say on average, I'm talking like a weekly average, a monthly average, an annual average. I don't think we necessarily need a year, but some people will if they have much larger goals. So if you didn't already know, a pound of fat is equivalent to about 3,500 calories. And so in order to lose a pound in a week or so, you're going to need to be in a 3,500 calorie deficit throughout the week when you break it down day by day. The trick here is that you don't necessarily have to be in a deficit every single day. But for the total of the week, you will need to be in that 3,500 calorie deficit. So it's where you'll see things like carb cycling come in. You'll see people talk about why the weekends throw you off, because people will do so well through the week and then they'll eat through their deficit during the weekend, stuff like that. The weekly averages are typically what are going to come in the most handy here, because that is oftentimes the most sustainable. We might fall off here and there, but as long as we stay on track generally throughout a week and week to week, month to month, we stay on track. We're good. However, I will say there is a fine line with this. Okay, this is why knowing your numbers is so important. It's a fine line because many calorie-dense foods and sweets, that 200 to 400 calorie deficit per day can easily be eaten through in like 30 seconds or less. If you think a candy bar is 200 to 400 calories, it just, if you're not keeping on track with your stuff, you can easily lose that deficit. So keeping track of your numbers at least for that first month is going to be key to understanding what it means to be eating generally a bit less or moving a bit more through the day, because you can tip the scales using exercise and or food to get where you want to go. And then step 4 with our best tools and practices that I highly recommend. That'll get you where you need to go. They might feel like a little bit more work in the beginning, but they pay off, absolutely. Things like resistance training. As I said, when it comes to creating your deficit, you can use movement and or food to attain it. If you want your food levels to stay the same, you can increase your activity a little bit each week in order to attain your deficit. You can walk a couple thousand more steps a day. You can walk a few thousand steps more a day. You can implement more weightlifting, about 3 days of weightlifting for about an hour each at a fair intensity. It's a really good way to go. Meal planning is a great way to stay consistent, especially in the beginning. You can start small, just meal plan one day of the week to replace one meal throughout the week so that you don't have to worry about cooking, you don't have to worry about buying food, going and getting it, you don't have to worry about thinking about what you're going to eat. It's already ready for you. You can choose a meal that you love, make it at home. It's great. And then there's moderation and portion control. A lot of this is going to be based off of how much you're used to eating day to day and the amounts of them. You can definitely keep in control of that and maintain things a bit better. And then the biggest tool that I recommend anyone get kind of familiar with, you don't necessarily have to do it forever, but tracking your food is absolutely mind-boggling. Like, you feel like you've ascended once you realize what the calorie and macro content of food is, because it adds so much more understanding of why some people poo-poo certain types of food and why some people praise them to the heavens, because the different types of qualities of each of them is very important, especially when it comes to trying to maintain a deficit. It's the difference between eating large amounts of food that are not calorie dense and large amounts of food that are calorie dense. You can still eat a lot of food if you understand what's in it and what it'll mean for you in your grand scheme, because there is such a way as to make your favorite foods less calorie dense when you make them at home. Okay, and then we have our last step, which is pivot, persist, and or refine. Okay, once you have your numbers, you have your ideas of where you've been going, your first 30 days under your belt. If you've been, say, you tracked your food for 2 weeks, now you know what your maintenance is. Now, you want to do your deficits, you know what you generally need to do to hit that deficit. And then after the 30 days, you can kind of troubleshoot and see what you did well and what you might want to do better. And that is where the pivot, persist, and refine come in. You can choose to either change your tactic, improve upon what you've already been doing, or continue to use the same method to see if it gets better over the course of the month. There's a lot of other finer details in this, but I'm trying to keep this nice and succinct for you so that you have the most important information. And that is in review, okay? Your biggest tool here is going to be to find your maintenance, which is where your body is at the balance of moving a certain amount and what you are eating and burning calorie-wise. Okay, so I recommend for at least 2 weeks tracking these things, tracking your steps, your water, your sleep, and your activity. And then also making sure, on a whole other side note, is making sure that you have your food in order. You have an idea of how much you're eating. Okay, you can do this by weighing food or just using measuring cups or just eating like about the same kinds of foods for a little while. If you look at us, we're creatures of habit. As much as people want to tell me they don't want to eat the same thing every day, when they actually break down what they do eat throughout the week, it's generally the same stuff anyways. So it is possible to do complete flexible dieting, and that is just eating completely different stuff every day while still hitting your targets. but you have to have a much more in-depth knowledge of your food and what you're getting in regularly in order to, and calorie-wise, macro-wise, so that that works well for you. Otherwise, inconsistent food, I often find, leads to inconsistent results. So I'm a numbers person in this regard, because for those first 5 years, I was inconsistent. I thought I was consistent, but I was not. It was just a reality I had to accept. And then next, once you have your maintenance, you can calculate your healthy deficit, which is picking your methods. You can choose to eat a little less or move a little more or both, but you want to try not to be too extreme so that it's not something that's so different than what you already do that you can sustain it. Like if you want to start going to the gym, you've never been to the gym before, I recommend just going to a gym, paying for a day pass for like a week for 1 or 2 days, getting in there, using a treadmill, trying some stuff out, watch some videos, learn some things, ask some questions, find a way to get yourself in there so you can move a little more. Okay, get your foot in the door. I always do this. I get talking and like the ideas flow so much better if I just keep talking as opposed to actually looking at my outline, because my outline derails me all the time. I'm like, oh no, I already talked about this. Or once you've chosen your deficit methods, go ahead, implement them for 30 plus days. Try to keep doing better with them. If you feel like you could have done better with them, you can do them for another month. Or if you want to change something up and try something different for a month, you can. That's part of the pivot, persist, and refine, where you just like take what worked, what didn't work, and move forward into another test phase. Because as you go, you will learn things more and more each time that you go, so that you can continue to build upon that and not just feel like you wasted so much time on something and didn't get anywhere. Because the truth is you learned something from it, especially if you have a plan. If you have your plan so that you have your beginning point, the maintenance in itself, finding the maintenance in itself is super powerful. So it's super underrated. People don't talk about it enough. But that one is the most important part, is finding your maintenance. Okay? You can find your maintenance by going in and getting a body scan or your body composition scan. But generally the most accurate you're going to get for you, if you are accurate with your tracking, is that what you eat and how sustainable that is for your daily diet. So, all right. Thank you. You bared with me through it. If you have questions, feel free to email me. You'll find it up in the corner. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.